Hey everybody, Nobuddy here. I got a quick question before we get started, okay? How many of you guys wanted superpowers? How many? Okay. Second question. How many of you guys wanted to get those superpowers, but you had to wake up in the morning randomly at like 13, and you couldn't control them and they were going to develop whether you wanted to or not? Anybody? 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 Oh, a lot of hands suddenly went down, huh? It's a good thing we got Professor X to keep us company. X-Men, the animated series. Airing on October 31st, 1992, my favorite holiday, this Canadian-American show written by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, the iconic man behind Marvel Comics, and comics, whatever. This show was phenomenal. It had a killer soundtrack. It was like 5 seasons long. I think it had like 70-something episodes, 76 or so. It blew Fox Kids, like, out of the common waters into, like, I don't know, God status as far as a channel was concerned. There were 3 channels that everybody wanted to tune into. It was, like, ABC, Fox, and Nickelodeon for cartoons, okay? And Fox had a solid main stake in there after this because of shows like X-Men. What's funny is that the show X-Men was actually, it's the second attempt they ever had to try to make an X-Men themed show, animated show. The Marvel Studios originally created like Plight, I think, or what was it? Pride of the X-Men. And it fell through. The execs didn't think it was a good idea. So they took the idea home, revamped it. Next thing you know, they come back, boom, X-Men the animated series. And they're like, yeah, we like it. So I think that's kind of funny that, like, all they had to do was basically change the colors and spin it around a little, and the execs were like, what a totally unique and amazing show. I will like it. The show, for the longest time, centered around, like, one group of people, the original cast from the comics, which I think back then was considered the Uncanny X-Men. If you don't know who those people are, that was Cyclops, Wolverine, Rogue, Storm, look at it, Beast, Gambit, the newbie, Jubilee, which was what the pilot was based on, getting her into the X-Men, Jean Grey, and they were all led by Professor Xavier, or Professor X, who ran Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. And it's crazy because this series, I mean, there was just like new mutants all the time, new superpowers, new villains, new places. It was just constantly evolving. And the series, believe it or not, as child-directed as it was, actually covered some pretty extreme topics. Some pretty common ones, too. Simple things, you know, like Christianity or, like, the troubles of divorce. But then it would do, like, some other extreme ones, you know, like racism or the AIDS hysteria. Or, you know, they talk about the Holocaust. You know, one of the main characters, Magneto, his family was abducted and put into the concentration camps. And so, like, they talk a lot about the Holocaust. And it's crazy that a show that I grew up with as a kid discussed a lot of those topics. It's funner, too, to, like, talk on, like, a less serious note. Some of the other things that came from this, like, once they started a cartoon and it picked up popularity, they got their own themed comic based on the characters from that show and moved forward with that, calling it The Adventures of the X-Men. And I mean, like, more shows after that original series came out. There were crossovers, like Spider-Man and, like, you know, different other characters, like the Hulk and stuff, had different crossover episodes. I think the Spider-Man crossover was actually a whole episodic that even aired in the Amazing Spider-Man show that was, I think it was on the same time that X-Men was. But it had something to do with them helping him to avoid changing into the Man-Spider, you know? Like, and then all those other shows that came in between shows how much popularity it had, you know? And I mean, like, there were video games, too, like, all kinds of them, like arcade games, beat-em-ups, mostly in the form of, like, the old-fashioned 2D side-scroller beat-em-up. But, like, they were just as popular. And, you know, it was one of those franchises that sparked, like, if I talked about the Transformers and how the Transformers started from a toy, and then this whole series kind of sparked from that, X-Men is like the complete opposite. The idea Stan Lee had when he got with Jack Kirby and writ the comics formed enough popularity on their own to create the cartoon release. From the cartoon came action figures, from action figures came more cartoons, from more cartoons came video games, from video games came more cartoons, from more cartoons came video games and movies, and then more video games. So it's crazy to think that something as simple as an idea somebody had, sitting in a room somewhere with another guy, like, hey Jack, like what if we wrote a story about kids that could make stuff float with their mind and set stuff on fire and stuff like that? And then, you know, decades later, it's a whole industry, like Marvel Studios, owned by Disney, has, you know, millions of videos, movies, and shows and stuff that are all based around the concept of mutants. Whether they're like superheroes or they're actual mutants from the show X-Men, there are amazing continuity references and like split thread theories and stuff between all of these different shows that unite them, that like link them all together. You know, the X-Men join up with the Justice League and help the Fantastic Four take on some guy who's really evil. You know, it was like that. And I think that's what helped these shows blossom the way that they did, because the popularity was almost as such that it just more popular created more show, created more popular. And if you haven't seen the original show, you can watch it now, I think, on Disney Plus. And I'm saying watch that show now. And tell me that like a week from now you're not walking around the house going I might have been just a little too excited about this video, and I apologize. I put just as much effort into this one as I did all the other ones, but for some reason, because it was one that I watched regularly, I got a little fangirl, and I apologize. I love these shows so much. I'm a superhero fanboy geek. I can't help it. Marvel raised me, so I defend Marvel to the death. I appreciate everybody for stopping in and watching my videos. I love you guys. It's going to wrap up my November. I got a couple of things coming up in December, but I'm going to spend some time with family too. So, like, this is the time to watch my stuff and comment on video games and movies you want me to talk about or video games you want me to play. And, man, I can't wait to see you guys after the holiday because, as always, I'm Nobody. I love your face, and I will see you next time. Save me some turkey.